I know they're going back and forth.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they would matter. If he wants to make some money, Floyd want to make some money.
It's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started up. I would have tell you, I'm not just interested. He make no sense for me. It's not my what I'm looking at right now.
How many of those shots from Francis can you take? Tyson Fury, if you're talking clean, Tyson Fury only took one. Everything else, Tyson was able to roll with. Big Francis only had to hit him one time. Like, that's a compelling story, in my opinion.
Jake Paul's next fight has turned the boxing world upside down. What was supposed to be a blockbuster showdown with Gervonta Tank Davis has imploded, leaving promoters, sponsors, and fans all asking the same question: what now? For weeks, the hype machine was unstoppable. Press tours, interviews, headlines, everything pointed to a record-breaking event. But then, everything fell apart. New allegations against Davis dropped just days before the official countdown began, and within hours, the fight was dead. Gone.
That Nikista's offering him the fight, but he's just not hearing it that way. Like, all right, you said you need help, and you called me, and I'm happy to help you, but you know what is it that I can do? So when Francis finally realizes it, he not only says no, he says he was offended. He said, Jake, you want me to bite Jake? Jake who? I said, Jake Paul. He said, that makes no sense. That's the last thing I would want to do right now. It's the last thing that I'm looking for. And, all right. Now, that is a good and comical story. And I think that Jake Paul deserves a lot of credit for that. I would have really liked if that match would have gotten booked. I mean, I think that would just solve so many problems from a storyline perspective. And there's this story going on out there that and it has to do with courage. Now, how you ever question a combat athlete's courage, I think, is hard. How you ever question a boxer's courage, right? Where you've only got two things you can do, and they're both involve bludgeoning. You can't even grab a hold of the guy or try to squeeze him. You can only bludgeon and be bludgeoned back. I think you're got an uphill battle to question somebody. But they have been very effective in doing just that to Jake. Hey, you start with this NBA guy, and then even those MMA guys, they're not boxers. And then when you got around to the boxers, but they weren't current boxers. Then when you get around to the current boxers, they're not big enough boxers. And I just loved it. When I heard that Francis Ngannou might be going against Jake, I loved it. I mean, what's that going to look like? How many of those shots from Francis can you take? Tyson Fury, if you're talking clean, Tyson Fury only took one. Everything else, Tyson was able to roll with. Big Francis only had to hit him one time. Like that.
Millions of dollars in marketing, sponsorships, and venue costs wiped out overnight. Analysts like Tim Bradley didn't sugarcoat it. He called it a brutal reminder that boxing isn't bulletproof. One fighter's actions, he said, can derail an entire production. And this time, it did spectacularly. As the smoke cleared, one name started echoing through the chaos: Francis Ngannou. The mere mention of the former UFC heavyweight champion sent shockwaves through combat sports.
A big MMA fan. I've been to UFC fights and I see you sitting octagon side. I can't help but wonder if you had gotten into MMA as a young man, as a teenager, instead of boxing, how do you think your career would have went, Mike?
Hey, I had no idea, but I'm really enthused about the MMA, because not thinking, I had no idea that Raphael, who's from a background of MMA, would know so much about boxing. I had no idea. Only thing I know about great boxing is the great Ed Joffa, who was a legendary boxer who happened to be Brazilian, but never knowing, just not being conscious that he would know that much about boxing.
Do you think you could have learned all the wrestling moves and the takedown defense and could have been a champion in something like the UFC?
I could have done all that stuff. But once someone stepped on my foot, I would have tapped out. My feet are my weak spot.
A Jake Paul versus Ngannou matchup? It sounded wild, and that's exactly why people couldn't stop talking about it. But Ngannou wasn't having it. He called Jake's offer disrespectful, flatly rejecting the idea. To him, this wasn't about paydays or hype. It was about principle, about not turning fighting into theater. Jake hasn't earned it, he said, drawing a line between entertainment and authentic combat. Even Chael Sonnen admitted he was intrigued not because it'd be competitive, but because he wanted to see how long Jake could last.
It would be something incredible. It's the same reason that I would be intrigued by a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight, although I would never advise Jake Paul to take a Anthony Joshua fight. I wouldn't advise him to take a Francis Ngannou fight either, because as much as Anthony is far better, which we saw when they actually fought, Joshua slept Francis Ngannou quicker than me after 2 melatonin. I mean, it was quick, fast, in a hurry, completely dominant. But we also saw Francis Ngannou go toe-to-toe with the heavyweight champion of the world at that time. Yes, he was out of shape. We understand that. But Tyson Fury on that night got the shock of his life when Francis Ngannou not only went toe-to-toe, but put him down and danced on him. To this day, I think that fight could have gone Francis's way. Point being, there are levels to this shit. Not just in boxing, but in combat in general. And the size difference Francis would have over Jake would be incredible, but it would have been a great event. And a lot of people would have tuned in. Francis, though, is saying that's not happening.
How can they go from like Gervonta Davis to Francis Ngannou? Like, I mean, Gervonta Davis is a fantastic boxer, but and is a one-shot knockout artist. But come on, like the weight different and everything, it make no sense.
It's a good point. I mean, obviously, Francis is right about the weight difference, but it's a good point in general for what do you do next? Jake has sparred guys like Shakur Stevenson, Ray Ford, Montana Love to try to prepare for Tank Davis. And even if you book this fight on December 12th or December 19th, that's still a completely different fight than you were going into. Completely different matchup, size-wise, skill-wise, the things that you're going to need to even try to compete if it's someone like a Francis Ngannou or even an Andre Ward or whoever else, not just the fight style.
If Tyson Fury could barely handle Ngannou's power, Sonnen joked, what's Jake going to do when that right hand lands? Daniel Cormier took a more serious tone, reminding fans that boxing and MMA may share gloves, but not physics. This isn't fame versus fame, Cormier warned. It's a man fighting for clicks, stepping in with someone who can end nights with one shot.
Real quick, you gotta be the dumbest dude, in the history of boxing, bro. $40 million, dog, down the drain. You gotta be the dumbest dude I've ever seen in the history of boxing, bro. Seriously. I'm like, $40 million, bro. Wealth. Literally wealth, bro. Going down the drain. I don't understand it. I can't make I don't understand it. But I'll tell you this. You know, MVP promotions, whatever the hell y'all call it, most valuable promotions, shit, more like rookie promotions. Yeah, more like rookie promotions. You didn't know what you were dealing with. You had no clue. This has always been down Tank's alley, man. Now, let me just say one thing. You know, you innocent until proven guilty. Ain't no charges been pending on Tank at all. You know, but I'm just saying, this has always came up within the last few fights of Tank's career. Yeah, it has. And MVP, more like RP, rookie promotions, yeah, y'all should have had a backup plan. You should have had a backup fighter. Yup. You live and you learn. Oh, absolutely. You live and you learn. You should have had a plan B, just in case this man, Tank Davis, don't show up. Yeah. That's what you should have done. Now you're looking like idiots. You know, I heard through the grapevine the joint wasn't even selling. Yeah, because everybody's tired of your bull crap, Jake Paul. Yeah, everybody's tired of that.
Brendan Schaub called the entire concept a circus act, arguing that putting a YouTuber against one of the most dangerous men on earth would make boxing look like parody. Meanwhile, the Tank Davis scandal kept spiraling. Commentators were ruthless. One analyst called it the dumbest self-sabotage in boxing history, pointing out that Davis's actions may have cost promoters tens of millions. Even Davis's defenders struggled to justify his silence and his repeated pattern of controversy.
Bought you to fight Jake to replace Gervonta. I'm like, who's Jake? You know, like, I was so confused, you know, like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And he said, yeah, Jake Paul, you know, he's fighting I'm like, no, bro, come on, don't. I mean, don't disrespect me like that. And then they even say like even come out after and say, and what if the number are good? He sent out some number. I'm like, it's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started up. I would have tell you, I'm not just interested. He make no sense for me. It's not my.
Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions finally made it official. The fight was canceled. In a statement, they said the company needed to handle the matter responsibly. But behind that corporate phrasing was one clear message: Netflix wasn't going to launch its first major boxing event with a fighter buried in legal trouble. Still, they confirmed Jake Paul would headline a Netflix boxing card in 2025 just with a new opponent. And that's where the guessing game began again. Names started flying. Ryan Garcia, Terrence Crawford, even KSI.
Versus Pacquiao, part 2.
Hate it.
It's like actually in the works.
Hate it.
2026, okay.
And Jake Paul's looking for a new opponent for Gervonta Davis, right? Yep. Gervonta Davis, dude, bud. Quit getting in fucking trouble, dude. How many times? You ever look at his rap sheet? What the fuck, dude?
He sent an offer to Ryan Garcia.
That'd be interesting. God, who the fuck's going to take that on about a week's notice? Might be 2 weeks. Is it the 12th?
So it's supposed to be the 14th.
Today's the 3rd. You have 11 days. To find a replacement, I've canceled. Francis and Nate Diaz are 2 of the Francis?
That'd be ridiculous, obviously.
That would be awesome. The Nate Diaz would eat shit on there. They've already fought, and it still didn't do great. I mean, if Nate wants to get paid, get your bag, dog. I get it. Francis would be fucking wild. It says other names are Ryan Garcia. I could see him doing it. Terrence Crawford?
No way.
Francis is I'd love to see Francis Jake. If that bad boy's an actual.
But insiders say Jake wants something that feels real dangerous, but credible. He's already sparred with elite boxers like Shakur, Stevenson, and Montana Love, preparing for Tank's style. But a jump to heavyweight for someone like Ngannou? That's not a crossover, that's a career gamble. The fallout from the Davis cancellation left more than an empty date, it left a scar. A fight that could have been one of the biggest crossover moments in boxing history ended in controversy.
Right? Boxing is much different than mixed martial arts. The target audience might be the same, but the demographics different. The places where people are brought up are different. There's bigger entourages in boxing. It's just a different world in boxing. We've known that from the very beginning. We know that Gervonta Davis was not going to just play to Jake Paul's rules. I still don't know exactly why this thing is falling apart, but it is falling apart bad. It is bursting at the seams. We are almost exactly where we should have never started. This should have never gotten started, but it did. But we are almost now exactly where we need to be in the fight, and that's it being off. It being off. So, the CEO of Most Valuable Productions is a guy named Nikisa Badarian. He said, our team has worked closely with all parties to navigate the situation responsibly. While we will not be moving forward with this event, our plan still remains for Jake to headline on Netflix in 2025. Details regarding a new date, location, a new opponent, and additional bouts will be shared as soon as they are finalized. So, Gervonta Davis is out of the fight. Like I said, guys, we honestly should have never had a fight. We should have never had that fight even on the docket, but it was happening. You knew it had potential to be a nightmare. It turned out to be exactly.
Really, she said, because as of me recording the video, I haven't even heard Tank or his team respond to these said allegations, right? And some people will say, oh, but he has these allegations in the past. The last time I checked, we have Miranda rights. They say guilty. They say innocent until proven guilty. But we know, especially for black men in America, it's really the opposite. For most people, but definitely black people, right? Is guilty until proven innocent. Like, you have to prove that you didn't do what's being leveraged again. And this is not copping pleas for Gervonta Davis. this is merely the truth, right? These are allegations. And from a business perspective, I understand, and I've told you in the past, companies, big corporations and companies, S-corps and big companies that are worth billions and trillions like Netflix, they are not trying to get their hands dirty. There's no one person that is perhaps big enough for them to ultimately mess up their money and basically allow a snowball effect in what they got going, right? They're not going for that.
Most Valuable Promotions, the promotion co-founded by Jake Paul and Nikisa Bedarian, posted this on social media. They posted that they were officially canceling the fight, saying Most Valuable Promotions immediately initiated an investigation. No, I had the wrong one. Okay, I'm reading this one. Most Valuable Promotions and Netflix have announced that Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, the one I was reading was the one from late last week, originally scheduled for Friday, November 14th at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida, will no longer be moving forward. Quote, our team has worked closely with all parties to navigate this situation responsibly, said Nikisa Bedarian, CEO of MVP. While we will not be moving forward with this event, our plan remains for Jake Paul to headline an event on Netflix in 2025. And that is what I'm hearing as well. They want him to fight in December. That is the hope. And they're actively looking for a opponent. More on that in a moment. Details regarding a new date, location, Jake's opponent, and additional bouts will be shared as soon as they are finalized. We thank Netflix, Kaseya Center, Seminole Hard Rock and Hotel and Casino for their partnership. Then there's some information about, fans who purchase tickets. You can see all of this online. I did speak to Nikisa briefly, and I've seen some people say like, hey, and this was his take. Like, I asked him two questions, basically, like, did this have anything to do with the ticket sales? He said this was going to be a very, very successful event for them financially. And the other thing was like, Tank Davis has a checkered past. He had a checkered past when this fight was made. What changed? Well, obviously, two incidents, allegations, lawsuit. Since the fight was announced, they at the time felt like this was an opportunity for people to learn about who Tank Davis is, for him to show the world that he was a changed man, all this stuff and more. And that didn't happen, and they felt like they had to cancel the event. For the record, I feel like this was 100% the right call. You can't be a promotion that is so heavily invested in women's boxing and work with a guy who has allegations and lawsuits pending.
And Ngannou's rejection reminded the world that fame doesn't always buy legitimacy. Now, Jake Paul stands once again where he's most comfortable, at the center of chaos, surrounded by cameras, waiting for his next headline to write itself. Because love him or hate him, one truth remains. Jake Paul doesn't just fight opponents, he fights the sport itself.